I'm going to show you a couple of examples of activities, and I want you to think about Linnea Airey's phases. This is a slide that Louisa Moats incorporated into a paper that she wrote in 2022. But I'm sure that most, if not all of you, know about these phases of word reading development. And so we have the pre-alphabetic phase where kids are not reading yet, right? They haven't discovered the alphabetic principle. Once they do, during this early alphabetic phase, that's when we shift immediately into getting kids to practice word reading through decoding and encoding and phonemic awareness activities. And so that they get through this later full alphabetic phase, because it actually takes a while for kids to get through that alphabetic phase because there's so many different patterns in English. And then we eventually want them to get to that consolidated stage where every word, by and large, is a sight word. So you're going to see sort of how these activities progress. But before I get into that, I want to just make sure that we're clear what we can teach our students, especially beginning right at the beginning, kindergarten. What is a sentence? A lot of teachers teach that it's a complete thought. Others say it makes sense. Others tell kids it has a capital letter and a period. And I maintain that those may all be true, but that's not going to teach the function of the sentence. And that's what I'm after. I want kids to know, how does a sentence function? So, because otherwise, if they think it's a capital letter and a period, they would say this is a sentence. And our kids write a lot of fragments, right? And they actually speak a lot of fragments. So another one of my things is, when you ask a question, make sure your students answer it with a complete sentence. Oral language is so important. It might be a question that they could answer with one word. It's mandatory that you respond with a complete sentence. So what we teach our kids is, it is a who or a what doing something. So the little kids, and you'll see a video in a minute, little kids say it's a who and a do. We eventually want them to know the who could be called a namer and the do is an action. As they get more sophisticated with their terminology, the namer is now a noun, the action is now a verb, and ultimately they understand subject predicate, right? But the lingo matters. So for little kids, I don't need them to call it a subject and a predicate. Some of them may, great, but I want them to know the function. It's a who doing something, right? So that's the important thing. So we have a simple subject, a compound subject, a complete subject. We have a simple predicate, a compound predicate, complete predicate. So again, I'm just going to go through the grammatical building blocks in a way so that you can sort of have an idea of how we teach these. We teach the nouns as namers because they name people, places, things, and ideas. That's the concept. And so to cue the kids, if they write a sentence like this one, played all morning in the sandbox, you would say, who played? Oh, I played, but I don't see that in the sentence. So that's the question. We want to cue them with who did it or what did it. Verbs, most all tell what nouns do. So they're action words. That's their function, right? They answer the question, did what? City dog did what? City dog jumped, right? But some verbs link. Okay, and what is the function of a linking verb? It links or connects, right? So you could say city dog is what? City dog is the frog's new friend. And because there's so many verbs that are linking verbs, right, we have to teach that concept early on. Now, one of the first activities we would do with little kids to make sure they can distinguish between a namer, right, and an action is to label, right, or name, or to understand that a namer names a person, place, or thing. So you can actually have them say that definition. Lots of kids say to you, a noun is a person, place, or thing, but they're missing the word names. So we want to make sure if you're asking them to define a noun, say a noun names it. right? And what does a verb do? It tells action. It tells what the namers do or feel. And I'm going to show a video now.
I'm Wendy, a Literacy How mentor, and I will be demonstrating the word function sort, which can be found in the Literacy How Syntax Handbook. The purpose of this lesson is to have our students think about the job or the function of words in their sentences. Today, we'll be working on the namer and the action and having our students figure out whether the word that we're asking them to read is a noun, a person, place, or thing, or is it an action word, a doing word? I have chosen words out of a decodable text. So that means that this is a stage 1 lesson. A stage 1 lesson simply means that all of the words that I've chosen, I know that my students can sound out. And this would be in preparation for my reading a decodable text with my students. So the primary purpose is to think about the function or the role of these words, but it's also good to have our students read these words again and again before they get into the connected text. It's also good for working on some vocabulary. It will also give them an idea of what the story will be about because of the words that I've chosen. So I will be using a decodable text called The Bad Hiss by Jill Lauren, and is part of her whole phonics decodable text series. So here I have 2 headings here. I have my namer heading, which are my nouns, person, place, or thing. Make sure that you do a nice job of setting your students up for what namer means. You are naming something, so a person, a place, or a thing. If you feel like this label isn't going to be enough information for your students, please do draw a sketch here or use some hand signals or gestures to help your students remember that namer means a person, a place, or a thing. And then our action word is our doing words and our verbs. So I've collected a stack of words here from my decodable text, and I'm ready to go. So I would show the students exactly what I want them to do. They would get this Post-it note. I would show them how I could sound it out, b-a-g, and then read it fast, bag. And then I would have to think about, is that word a person, a place, or a thing, or is it an action? So I would slide this word over here underneath the namer because it is a thing. Here we have the Post-it note sat. Once again, this time after showing them what I mean by this lesson, it might be a we do. So I would have us all sound out this word, at, read it fast, sat, and then decide where it goes. Is it a person, place, or thing? Is it naming something, or is it an action word? So they would decide that sat is an action word. And then I would give them each a Post-it note and give everybody an opportunity to sort out, to read and sort the words between the namers and the actions. So here we have the word web straight from the story. It's a namer. I would slide it over there. Here is another word from the story, hid. A student can decode it and then decide it's an action and slide it over here, and so on and so forth. Sorting out the various Post-it notes. So I want to show you what is fairly typical in decodable texts is that many of the words could be multiple meaning words. And in fact, there are several in this story. And one of them is the word rocks. So we would have a student decode the word rocks and decide, are we thinking about rocks as a thing, where we would slide it over to the namer, or somebody might come up with the idea that rocks is an action word. So please do be prepared to add some more sticky notes and to celebrate that our students know that there is more than one meaning for the word rocks. So like grandma rocks my baby brother to sleep every night. Same with the word bugs. Some students would read that word and decide that we're talking about the insects. So we would slide it under the namer column. But another student might say, hey, wait a minute. My sister bugs me or annoys me all the time, bothers me. So do have a Post-it note ready to type in or write in the bugs and celebrate that your students know that bugs could have more than one meaning. After you finish sorting the words, please do have them read all of these words over again for extra rehearsal. And then also read all the action words for extra practice. If time allows, you could do a little bit of an extension activity by adding the word the on a Post-it note and perhaps adding a period on a Post-it note, and then having our students build a super simple sentence using the word the and choosing a Post-it note from the namer side. So we might have the pals, and then choosing a word from the action column and building this very simple sentence, the pals hid, and then adding a period here. So this is a great activity to work on namers and actions, the functions of words in sentences, and at the same time, add more rehearsal for the decoding of these words, and then showing them how we can build very simple sentences, selecting a namer and an action from each column.
And so to get the concept, if you were doing this with kids who are not reading yet, they're at the pre-alphabetic stage, you would have them sort pictures. And then after they've sorted the pictures into a namer column and a doing column, or a who and a do, you could then ask them to put pictures together and say the sentence orally, because we're going to be building oral language as we're building the concept of a sentence. The duck swims, right? And Wendy in her demonstration talked about words with multiple meanings, and I know that a lot of you are teaching teaching kids with dyslexia and other word reading difficulties using decodable text. And this is just an example. She mentioned this as well. These are all closed syllable words that have multiple, that are considered multiple meaning words. I was going to ask you to find a word in your read aloud that can be a namer and an action. Which function are your students most familiar with? But I'm going to skip that for now because I want to keep moving along. But that's just something to think about. A lot of those words that you see here can also be used as actions. And sometimes kids don't know that action, right? They may be very familiar with the plant, right, that grows in the yard, but when you plant something, they might not know the verb. Bike, they know it as a namer, but they might not know it as a verb. So just make sure your kids know both uses of those multiple meaning words. So we're going to talk about interpreting word meaning here in terms of those multiple meaning words, because what you have to help your kids do once they see those multiple meaning words is you have to show them the sentence and help them to understand, is that word functioning as a namer or is it functioning as an action word, right? And because again, some of the obscure meanings of multiple meaning words are ones that kids are less familiar with. So you saw the word function sort where we named and sorted pictures of nouns and verbs, and then we could combine pictures to create oral sentences. You saw Wendy do a sort with decodable nouns and verbs and combining them to create oral sentences. And then at the consolidated stage, you would do this with a text that is more sophisticated. Again, making sure that the kids really know subject and predicate and can find those subjects and predicates in a meatier text, because we can't assume that they can do that. I'm showing this slide again because here I want to focus on these groups of words that work together to answer a functional question. Because when we get into adverbs, and that's what we're going to talk about next, we talk about actions telling us more about the verb. That's the function of an adverb, right? So it answers the questions when, where, how. It can also answer the question why, but we're going to stick with these three questions initially. Now, just think about this, because adverbs can be single words like tomorrow and yesterday, right? There and here, suddenly, softly, and quickly, but also actions or adverbs can be part of a phrase, and these would be called adverbial phrases. On Tuesday, in the dark ages, around the block. So that whole phrase serves the role of telling more about the verb. We can also have actions that adverbs that are part of an adverbial clause after the storm ended, as the crowd excitedly cheered on the team. So I want you to think about this, because we are going to focus on the phrases, especially when we get into more complex sentences. But we can start our work with this action telling me more with a picture prompt. Like, a kernel sentence is with this picture: the boy fell. Where did the boy fall? When did the boy fall, right? The hurricane formed. Where did it form? When did it form? And just doing this orally is a great warm up, right? For getting kids to think about these adverbial phrases. And we can use sticky notes, right? We don't need to put words on these. If we're doing this activity with a first grader, we don't need to write the words down. We can just have these sticky notes function, right? The boy fell, right? And then each sticky note represents the answer to the question, where or when. And the reason for doing this is sentence variety, right? We have this hurricane formed rapidly over the Gulf of Mexico in early September. Again, we want the kids to be able to speak these sentences orally, these sentences that have lots of description and that are telling where did this form, how did it form, when did it form, right? And you could say, how else could you write this sentence or speak this sentence? We can move the word rapidly to the beginning. Rapidly, the hurricane formed. So you're really getting across this idea that words can move around in the sentence. Sometimes it changes the meaning and sometimes it doesn't. So again, we do this orally until the kids can actually write these sentences themselves. But the idea is that we're teaching them how sentences work. And this is another example where we're going to identify an action verb within a phrase or a clause. We're going to sort the kind of information that is used to expand the verb and use those expanded verb phrases in complete sentences. Let me go back to an earlier slide to show you a video of action tell me more. So we'll watch this video.
So let's put these words out. And what we have to do when we have a scrambled sentence, we have to find the action word, the word that is called the verb. What word here is the doing word? Like if you were talking about the who do, it's the do.
Ride.
Ride, yeah. You can ride, right? Sit down in a car and you ride, or you ride a bike. So that's going to be our doing word. Okay? Oh, what did you want to say about this?
Skip.
That's a doing word, but you know what? Since it's a capital, this is actually a person's name. Okay? Because you could have the name Skip. All right, so here's our do, ride. Who? Now, so let's go with a who do. Who is going to ride?
Skip. Stand. Stand. Skip.
You're right and you're right.
Stand and skip.
Correct. Put that in front, please. All right, so now what does it say?
Stand and skip, ride.
Good. All right, what do we have left?
Down the hill. The hill. The hill went down. Just now
We have stand and skip, ride. Now, down.
the hill.
Oh, there you go. Does that tell us when or where or why? Down the hill. Does that tell us where they're going? Where are they going?
Down the hill.
It does tell us where. Does it tell us when they did it? No, it tells us where. So who, do, where. Who's doing it? Stand and skip. What are they doing?
Riding.
Riding. Where are they riding? Down the hill. Great job. Now you guys are going to do one yourselves. When you find your verb, tell me what you think your verb is. Hit. That's a doing word. Who hits? The boys hit. All right. Let's see. What do you have so far?
The two boys hit.
The two boys.